Thank you for joining us with the news on QTV. My name is Diana Sumbwe. We take a look at stories making headlines. Justice Minister Given Lubinda says the publication of the Constitution Amendment Bill is subject to the success of the national dialogue. The presidency has clarified that the money allocated in the 2019 national budget for a new state house is not for construction. And the Zambia Police Service recorded 30,652 road traffic accidents in 2018, in which 1,817 people died. And now the news in detail. Justice Minister Given Lubinda says the publication of the Constitution Amendment Bill is subject to the success of the national dialogue. Mr. Lubinda has told Q News that his ministry will not publish the Constitution Amendment Bill as long as there is an impasse between the Church and the Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue over the national dialogue. He says the government will remain consultative and patient as it still wants to hear the views of the Zambian people before undertaking any constitution reforms. Mr. Lubinda says the ZCID should inform government on what the views of the people are with regards to the proposed constitution reforms. He adds that government is also waiting to hear the views of the people on the Public Order Act review and the political parties bill. Mr. Lubinda has, however, stated that government does not intend to wait indefinitely. He says for the time being, government is observing developments and will at an appropriate time make its position known.
We are a very consultative government. We are very patient and we'd like to hear the views of the Zambians. At the moment, I would not like to comment more than what I said last year. Last year, if you recall, I said we have allowed the Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue to go ahead and make consultations so that they can come and inform us of the views of the people that they are consulting before we proceed with the legislation on the Constitution, the Public Order Act, and the political parties bill. But I also did indicate that we shall not wait indefinitely. For the time being, government is going to observe the developments, and at an opportune time, government.
Political scientist Alex Ngoma has observed that the national dialogue is bound to fail unless the church mother bodies revert to the original roadmap of the process. Dr. Ngoma tells Q News that the confusion that surrounded the launch of the national dialogue will continue derailing the process unless the church mother bodies revert to the original roadmap. He has accused the church of abandoning what the Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue had started when it convened a meeting with its members and other stakeholders in Siavonga district last year. Dr. Ngoma says the church has departed from the national dialogue process started by the ZCID. The presidency has clarified that the money allocated in the 2019 national budget for a new state house is not for the actual construction works. Presidential Affairs Minister Freedom Sikazwe says the money is meant for planning purposes to ascertain the feasibility of constructing a new state house. Mr. Sikazwe, who is also Mpulungu Member of Parliament, has told QTV News by telephone that land where the new state house will be built has not yet been agreed upon. He states that once land has been secured or Cabinet decides that a new state house be built within the premises of the current one, such a decision will be made known to the Zambian people. And Mr. Skazwe says in approving the proposal to construct a new state house, Cabinet took into consideration the announced austerity measures. He states that Cabinet will not therefore approve the construction of a new state house if such an undertaking will constrain government financially.
We are not saying after the austerity measures. We are saying even under the austerity measures, if we can get money outside the system which is not going to strain the government, we have no problem. I'll give you a good example. Suppose we had the offers from people giving us a grant that we will give you a grant to build a state house. Would we refuse? No. That's what I mean. That's why we are saying we have to put it in our plan so that even as we speak to our friends, we can tell them we have plans to build a state house, but we have no capacity, right? So if anyone comes on the board and says, okay, let's see your plans, how much will it cost? Okay, because we will have all the information by that time, right? Then it will be easier for us to even sell the idea. If we just need so much to build the state house. And you'll find that there are some governments who might come in and say, okay, we'll give you a grant for that. Can we say we are not ready for it? So what we are doing is put ourselves in a position where we want to build the state house, but we have.
30,652 road traffic accidents were recorded in the year 2018 compared to 30,163 recorded in 2017, showing an increase by 489 road traffic accidents. Police spokesperson Esther Katongo says 1,636 were fatal road traffic accidents, in which 1,817 persons died compared to 1,436 fatal road traffic accidents in 2017, and 1,989 persons were killed, showing an increase in fatal traffic accidents by 200 and a decrease in persons killed by 172. Ms. Katongo says a total number of 15,822 casualties were recorded in 2018 compared to 15,951 in 2017, showing a reduction by 129. She adds that 3,392 were serious road traffic accidents, in which 5,266 persons were seriously injured, compared to 2017, where 3,017 serious road traffic accidents were recorded, with 5,500 people seriously injured, showing an increase in serious road traffic accidents by 375 and a decrease in persons seriously injured by 234. Ms. Katongo further states that a total number of 1,481 children under the age of 16 were involved in road traffic accidents in 2018. Among them were 858 males and 623 females, of which 181 were killed, compared to 1,431 children involved in road traffic accidents in 2017, where 203 were killed, showing a decrease by 22. She says Lusaka Division recorded the highest number of road accidents with 16,176, followed by Copperbelt with 4,836 and Central Province with 2,223. Foundation for Democratic Process FODEP Executive Director Mwenge Chimfwembe has expressed fear that if the current political situation in the neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo and Zimbabwe is left unchecked, it has the potential to escalate into civil unrest. Mr. Chimfwembe is concerned that political instability in the SADC region is becoming rife. He tells QFM News that there is need for SADC to arrest the situation before it degenerates in the region. Mr. Chimfwembe has attributed the current political situation in the DRC and Zimbabwe to failure to uphold freedom of expression. He has since called for a remedy in the governance system of SADC member countries. Mr. Chimfwembe feels the African Union and SADC are not doing enough to address the situation.
We feel that the Congo basically needs more than the diplomatic support, but it needs a lot more than that. The Zimbabwean situation basically is another classic example of how not to handle protests. If you like, if you compare how France reacted when the citizens rose up and demanded that certain actions be done to correct the economic situation, it's basically the same situation in Zimbabwe. But Zimbabwe has acted very harshly towards the protesters. If those videos that we are seeing are actually true, it means that there is need to ensure that the human records for that country is actually reviewed. It's quite saddening to.
Minister of Labour and Social Security Joyce Simkoko has encouraged workers in the country to find time to read the labour laws so that they know their rights, to avoid being exploited by their employers. Speaking when she conducted inspections in shops around Kamala trading area to check on the compliance levels to the increased minimum wage effected in September last year, Mrs. Simkoko notes that some workers are ignorant about their rights, hence employers are taking advantage of them. She says it is unfortunate that some workers do not even know that their working conditions were improved. Mrs. Simkoko expressed disappointment that some employers are not compliant to the revised minimum wage. Martha Katambi has more in this report.
On September 10th, 2018, government revised upwards the minimum wage for domestic, shop, and general workers in the country. The Minimum Wage and Conditions of Employment Act number 278 of the laws of Zambia were revised following issuance of statutory instrument number 69 of 2018 covering domestic workers, statutory number 70 of 2018 covering shop workers, and statutory number 71 of 2018 which provides for general application of all protected workers. However, despite the minimum wage being increased, some employers have decided not to comply with the law. Labour Minister Joyce Simukoko today inspected some shops in Kamwala to check on the compliance levels for the minimum wage.
So why haven't you adjusted it?
No, we already did from January. We already told them.
How much are you getting? 900.
920.
But that's not the minimum wage.
That's not only minimum wages, but
Why haven't you increased the
we have
minimum?
already spoken to them.
Excuse me. You understand the law. When the law becomes effective, can you hear me? When the law becomes effective, we all come to the law. There's no I've talked to them, I've done this. When we say effective date, this one.
Some shop owners, however, had different reasons as to why they did not increase the minimum wages for their employees.
The team is also entitled to weekend bonus.
Before we come to weekend bonus, salary.
The salary. The salary is just as like he has said.
No, but it's below the minimum wage. I think what you feel that you heard when we announced the minimum wage. Do you have the details of the minimum wage? Did you?
In the shop, salesman and
You know you are from where? Which country are you from?
from Zambia. Now I'm Zambian, 100%.
Yeah, this is a Christian nation. We don't lie.
No, of course. No, there's nothing like
And
that.
we don't use people for less.
Definitely.
Okay, so
The Labour Minister has since warned employers to ensure that they pay their workers what is due to them and ensure that they pay any arrears that they owe them since September when the minimum wage was increased.
so far the sampling we have done, you can see for yourself that it's not too good. It's not too good, and we would prefer 100%. I would like to see the workers are knowledgeable. You've seen the workers, some of them they don't even know that their conditions of service were improved. So we want to see the employers also to be kind to the people they are working for. They shouldn't always be inspections for them to be compliant. But as you heard me, those who are not compliant, they waste their time because they will pay arrears. So if I were them, it's better to comply.
Martha Katambi, reporting for QTV News in Lusaka.
Bwana Mkumbwa Member of Parliament Jonas Chanda has urged Zambia Medicine Regulatory Authority ZAMRA, Zambia Bureau of Standards ZABS, and Ndola City Council NCC to quickly release the findings of the investigations carried out on the natural power energy drink samples. The samples were taken from the manufacturer Raven Zambia Limited in Ndola following allegations by the Uganda National Drug Authority and Uganda Bureau of Standards that the natural power energy drink contains sildenafil citrate Viagra, which is used to treat erectile dysfunction in men and pulmonary hypertension. This was after Uganda National reportedly suffered a 6-hour erection after taking the drink. Dr. Chanda notes that the delay in releasing the results will subject to the 56 workers at Raven Limited Company who were sent on leave and their families to misery and starvation. He has since urged the Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry to take keen interest in this case, saying this could be a possible scheme by business rivals who may want to discredit Raven Zambia Limited and simply start producing their own local power drinks to satisfy the demand for the product in their countries. Lusaka Province Minister Boma Nusambo says President Edgar Lungu's recent warning to underperforming ministers and permanent secretary is timely. President Edgar Lungu has warned ministers and permanent secretaries of dismissal if they fail to deliver on the promises made to Zambians. Mr. Lusambo says the warning is timely considering the remaining period before the country goes to the poll in 2021. The provincial minister has since pledged his commitment to ensuring that he delivers to the people of Lusaka and Zambia on the promises aimed at bettering the lives of the citizens.
So that warning which came from His Excellency Edgar Chagwa Lungu actually is timely, and we need to know what we are doing as ministers, as permanent secretaries, as directors, even the cleaners who are supposed to maintain our surrounding. All of us, we should know why we are working in the government of His Excellency Edgar Chagwa Lungu. So for me, my advice goes to my people in Lusaka province, to make sure that we pull up our socks. Let us make Lusaka a shining example to other provinces. We will work with all of Lusaka residents, including the street kids, so that they can cooperate with us as we are telling them to start trading in other areas where we have provided for them. You know, governance is a system. It's not about Edgar Chagwa Lungu. Governance is a system. So all of us, we are in it. And for me as the minister, I can assure you that I heard what the president told us, all of us, and I was there.
President Edgar Lungu has been called upon to give a directive on the way forward with regard to the dialogue process. Republican Progressive Party RPP Vice President Leslie Chukse says there is need for President Lungu as head of state to give guidance on how the nation should proceed with the dialogue process. Mr. Chukse says this is given the impasse between the church and the Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue, ZCID. He has told QTV News that President Lungu is the only one capable of reconciling the two parties in the interest of the nation. Minister of National Guidance and Religious Affairs Godfrida Sumaili says the ministry, in conjunction with all church mother bodies, are working on a self-regulatory mechanism to stop false pastors and prophets from taking advantage of the people in the country. In an interview with Q News, Reverend Sumaili says the ministry and the church mother bodies are working on barring such people from running churches in the country. She says the church mother bodies will come up with minimum standards of what will be required from anyone who wishes to establish a Bible-believing church in Zambia. Reverend Sumaili has noted the need for the church mother bodies, Ministry of Home Affairs and Registrar of Societies to work closely to ensure that the required standards are met before a church is registered. The minister has warned that government will not tolerate anyone who will use the name of the Lord as a means to acquire wealth for selfish purposes.
Of National Guidance and Religious Affairs, working with the church mother bodies, we are putting together a self-regulatory framework which has been done, and now it has to go through the process of first making it policy. Cabinet has to approve it, and then we can implement it. And this self-regulatory framework is a document coming from the church themselves, and they will self-regulate themselves. They are putting minimum standards of what is required of a Bible-believing church, and it is expected that everybody should comply, and we have to work. This ministry is working closely with the Ministry of Home Affairs and the Registrar of Societies to ensure that the required standards are met before a church registers, and also when it is registered, it has to make sure that it is part of a church mother body, so that there can be oversight and also capacity build that.
The body of late former Republican Vice President Lupando Mwape is expected to arrive in the country on Friday, 25th January 2019. Zambia's High Commissioner to South Africa, Emmanuel Mwamba, says Mr. Mwape's remains will arrive aboard South African Airways at 15 hours, accompanied by his widow, Mrs. Happy Priska Mwenya Mwape, family members, and Mr. Mwamba himself. Mr. Mwamba says logistics regarding the repatriation of the remains of Mr. Mwape have been completed in readiness for repatriation, and Zambians living in South Africa will hold a memorial service for the late former Vice President on Thursday, 24th January. Mr. Mwamba says the service will be held in honor of Mr. Mwape for his contribution to Zambia's development. He says the memorial service will be held at St. Martin Porres Catholic Church in Carrigal Park in Johannesburg and will be presided over by Father Harrison Mlenga. President Edgar Lungu has declared a 3-day period of national mourning that is expected to begin once the body arrives in the country. Mr. Mwape served as Republican Vice President from 2004 to 2006 under President Levi Mwanawasa. This is contained in a statement issued by Naomi Nyawali, First Secretary, Press and Public Relations at Zambia's High Commission in South Africa. A freelance Zambian journalist has written to President Edgar Lungu to ask him to consider invoking his discretion on the prerogative of mercy and pardon jailed Rainbow newspaper editor-in-chief Derek Sinjela. Mr. Sinjela is serving an 18-month jail sentence for contempt of court over articles his newspaper published accusing Supreme Court justices of being corrupt in the manner they handled the Stanbic Bank versus Savenda case. Meanwhile, Civil Society Constitutional Agenda CISCA committee member McDonald Chipenzi says it is sad that Mr. Sinjela has been jailed for simply fighting for freedom of speech, expression and opinion. We have more in this report.
It is exactly 34 days today since the Rainbow newspaper editor Derek Sinjela was jailed. On 20th December last year, the Supreme Court sent Mr. Sinjela to jail and castigated him for publishing insulting sentiments against Supreme Court judges who handled the Stanbic Bank versus Savenda judgment, which was in favor of the bank. When passing the judgment, Deputy Chief Justice Marvin Mwanamwambwa told Mr. Sinjela that had he denied the charge, he would have been slapped with a longer jail term. Following Mr. Sinjela's sentence, journalists in Zambia are worried about their work. This has prompted a freelance Zambian journalist based in Lusaka, Salim Dahoud, to write to President Edgar Lungu to consider invoking his discretion on the prerogative of mercy as President of the Republic of Zambia and pardon jailed editor of the Rainbow newspaper. Civil Society Constitutional Agenda today visited Derek Sinjela.
So if we don't encourage each other in such kind of times, then it becomes a lonely world, So this is why we decided to say, let's go and give the support. Just even seeing each other, it lifts someone's spirit, and we hope that as many people as possible also come to see that what is happening to our colleagues. Let's help him. Let's encourage him that these things they happen, but they are not permanent. One day things will be okay. So we hope also journalists will try their level best to see how best we can help our colleague in there. He may have done whatever is being put on him, but at the end of the day, he was fighting for the freedom of expression, the freedom of opinion, and the freedom of speech. So this is what you pay when you are a freedom fighter. Freedom fighting doesn't mean only getting independence. Freedom fighting is also trying to create a space, an enabling environment for you to speak and express yourself and impart opinion and information that you think is correct. And those who think it's not correct, they should also be able to give you the other story of the other part of their story. So we are happy that he's in good spirits, he's jovial, but his jovialness will be more if we can regularly visit him.
Judith Mlenga, who is CISCA treasurer, has this encouragement.
Yeah, I think it's important for civil society, because you see the press is part of civil society, and it's important for all of us not to forget our colleagues, who are in this kind of situation. And we thought that as CISCA, it's important that we come and visit our colleague, Mr. Sinjela, and just give him some encouragement. And we are relieved that he seems to be okay. He's obviously under a lot of stress because it's prison life, but it seems to be bearing up, and that is a bit of a relief for us, and we plan to be visiting him as regularly as we can, and would like to urge the other civil society out there to also give solidarity. Just a hello it lifts his spirits up, and he seems to his spirits seem to have been lifted by our simple visit. So, and of course, it's biblical. When I was in prison, you visited me. When did we come to see you, Lord? Whenever you visited somebody in prison, you came to visit me. So, yeah, we hope by the grace of the Lord that we have enough time to come and see him.
Favorite Kalando reporting for QTV News in Lusaka.
Chongwe Member of Parliament Jaffin Mwakalombe has announced plans to start empowering youths in his constituency in fish farming. Mr. Mwakalombe says he has already engaged the Minister of Livestock and Fisheries, Kampamba Chewe, over these plans. He says the idea is to see how government can help in coming up with skills development programs that will equip youths in Chongwe with knowledge in fish farming. Mr. Mwakalombe says his office has since embarked on the construction of fish ponds in every ward of the constituency.
We are now developing in each and every ward fish ponds, which we are thinking that it will help our youths to be empowered so that they can go in fish farming. And I have already talked to the Minister of Livestock so that they can come and empower the youth with the skills and knowledge for these youths to be able to manage the fish farming.
To end the news, we take a look at stories making headlines. Justice Minister Given Lubinda says the publication of the Constitution Amendment Bill is subject to the success of the national dialogue. The presidency has clarified that the money allocated in the 2019 national budget for a new state house is not for construction. And the Zambia Police Service has recorded 30,652 road traffic accidents in 2018, in which 1,817 people died. On that note, we come to the end of the news. From me, Diana Sumbwe. Thank you for watching.